understanding that electric, stinging SI joint pain coming up. There is a particular symptom that can be common in sciatica that really makes us feel like, oh my gosh, it's nerve, it's nerve. It's so stingy and hot and electric feeling. I've had different people say, it feels like lightning striking in my SI joint when I go to walk or stand up and put my weight on my body. Or when I have, one woman said it feels like a bee is stinging me right there in the SI joint. Got to be nerve, right? For some folks, it will be so bad that they have to get on the floor and crawl on hands and knees. That will take it right away. So I want to help you understand this so that you can understand how you're going to address and fix this problem in your body. So SI joint, sacroiliac joint, electric pain as relative to sciatica. Here's the thing. It's coming from a low back muscle called quadratus lumborum. Quadratus lumborum is a muscle, as you can see pictured here, that goes from the lowest rib to the top rim of the pelvis. This muscle is a big piece of the sciatica picture. Quadratus lumborum lifts your hip one side up, and when both sides of the quadratus lumborum are contracting together at the same time, it stabilizes your lumbar spine when you're weight bearing, when you're standing with your weight on your body, which is why crawling helps, because you take the weight off your body. So quadratus lumborum lifts the hip, and it also stabilizes the lumbar spine. Now here's the thing. When you have one hip higher than the other, I'm going to keep driving that idea in because it's so important. It is almost always a piece of the sciatica puzzle. When you have one hip that sits higher than the other, let's say the right hip, the QL, the quadratus lumborum on that side, is drawn short and tight. The spine is curving, shortening on that side, and the other side is fanning open. Often the other side, when it's QL really causing some problems, often the other side, that low hip side, is the source of quadratus lumborum pain. Not always. There's never an always. However, often the symptoms are felt on the low hip side because muscles don't like to hang long. So on the low hip side, QL is stuck fanned open. It's hanging on for dear life, trying to pull that other hip back up to level your pelvis. Now, all of the nerve roots through the lumbar area pass along and are relative to the quadratus lumborum. So there can be different kinds of nervy symptoms that are experienced. One very common nervy symptom that is experienced from quadratus lumborum trigger points and dysfunction is a lightning-like sharp, stabbing, electric, buzzing pain right at the SI joint. Here's the thing. Quadratus lumborum lifts the hip. Glute med and glute min pull the hip down. They're in a constant tug of war. And what joint is in the middle? That's the hip joint, but also the SI joint. And there can be some pressure put into that sacroiliac joint. It's not meant to move very much, but there's a little bit of cartilage, a little bit of space there for little tiny micro movement. If that joint gets jammed, then there's going to be some pain and dysfunction. How it gets jammed is an imbalance with quadratus lumborum and glute med and glute min. You're often going to experience symptoms of both of those groups of muscles. Quadratus lumborum, this pain, it will be fine. You're going to feel better sitting as long as you're not sitting up too much. Lying down will feel best. Crawling on hands and knees will be surprisingly okay. Like, oh, okay, I can do this. Because you're not weight bearing on the lumbar spine. And when you put your weight upright on the lumbar spine, especially in walking, the QL is going to seize up. And this is also why you might feel a little better at first when you start walking around in the morning. You might feel like, okay, I think it's going to be an okay day. It's like a little stiff and tight, but I'm cautiously moving. And then you walk around a little bit and it feels a little better. And then as you walk around, it gets worse and worse because that QL, that quadratus lumborum in the lumbar spine, is trying to contract and stabilize that spine as you take your steps. So for some folks, it's going to be terrible right away. But this might help you understand why sometimes after you've been walking for a period of time, it just gets worse and worse. And then you just have to lay down, right? Crawling would be better because you can get some movement. You could do a little bit of wagging your tail, try to keep some movement, right? The worst thing to do is to be still. And I understand why it's scary to move when it hurts, especially an electric-like hurting. So you want to keep movement, non-painful movement as much as possible. So when you're getting that electric-like thing, you want to get on your hands and knees, do a little wagging of your tail, and then release the glutes, and then release the QL. And those videos are here in this list. So release the glutes. We'll put a link in the description below. You can get rid of this electric-like, stinging, sharp pain. You truly can. It might take a little bit of time every day doing a little release in the glutes, glute min, glute med, a little release in quadratus lumborum, doing the movement breaks to help balance the tension in these muscles and the contraction in these muscles. But you can do it. You can get better. I'm so happy to support you in understanding why these things are what they are, why your symptoms are what they are, and to help you know that you really can fix them. You can get yourself out of this pain. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.